Atomic Heart is going to be one of the more interesting games I've talked about on my channel so far, and one of my personal, highly anticipated games of the next few years. It's also the first game I've talked about that's not part of an existing series. Atomic Heart, if you don't know, is a first-person shooter that takes place in an alternate reality Soviet Union somewhere in the mid-1900s. The story is about all things that could have happened in the reality of the USSR but didn't. Technical revolution has already occurred, robots, the internet, holograms have already been invented, but all of these innovations are immersed in the atmosphere of communism, imperialism, and confrontation with the West. The protagonist of the game, a Soviet Special Duty KGB officer, ends up at one of the complexes of the facility 3826 during a massive robot control system malfunction. The game world consists of huge open world regions full of lush Soviet nature and less spacious territories of the facility complexes with its secret underground and above ground labs, bunkers, and robotic logistics systems. Most of the enemies are a variety of machines produced at the facility. Each robot was originally made to serve the needs of the Soviet industry or help Soviet citizens in a daily life. The robots are implemented with a combat program that could be activated in case of a war. And if that sounds interesting to you, let's get into everything we know about Atomic Heart. Let's get into what's happening with the game, why we haven't heard about it, some of the pushed dates, and then moving forward, what to expect from this game. As always, links to all the sources will be provided down below, so make sure to check those out if they're still available. Now, the first mention of the game happened back in July of 2017 when a teaser trailer was dropped for the game. The teaser said that all footage was captured in-game, and it showed off a few different areas, enemies, and weapons. And ends saying, quote, it's going to be on Steam, PlayStation VR, and Steam VR. And the initial logo was a robot heart, which looks cool, and then we see the game is developed by Mundfish. Now, Mundfish, 1 year after this trailer was released, actually ended up releasing a game called Soviet Luna Park VR, which is what the original trailer was for, only a VR game. But once it was released, they decided to work on an actual full-fledged Atomic Heart title that is not VR. And you can see in the Soviet Luna Park, a lot of the assets and design elements were moved to this game, I think just to release something very quickly. The game did not get very good reviews and seemed almost more like a cash grab at the time by the developer to raise funds to make the Atomic Heart game they actually wanted to make. Which is also why the game was renamed, and now that VR title is Soviet Luna Park. In May of 2018, the official trailer to the new Atomic Heart was released and was instantly met with praise, and drew comparisons from System Shock, BioShock, Fallout, and others. But the trailer still seemed more concept than reality. It looked really cool and set high expectations for the game right off the gate. In terms of gameplay though, in the trailer we see finisher moves on different enemies, weapon customization, and a huge world to explore. Then through the rest of 2018, teases and small bits of the trailer were posted. Higher quality, they showed off NVIDIA's technology and how they were using that to make the game. And it wasn't until January of 2019 that the official pre-alpha gameplay was posted to their YouTube channel. And it got people even more excited. It showed off a few different combat scenarios, a mix of melee and ranged weapons, along with the amazing world they're building. Then the game was quiet for most of 2019 until August, when Richard Gray, a level designer who'd previously worked on Duke Nukem 3D and Quake, and who is highly respected in the industry, was brought on board the team to assist in development. And he also announced that he would be the new spokesperson for the game. Now, he goes on to address the rumors that because of all these huge gaps in time of when development was releasing news, it seemed early 2018, then late 2018 more info, then early 2019, and then late 2019. So there was months at a time that nothing was being released, and we still haven't seen too much gameplay or story. A lot of it is still just their high concept. Now, Richard goes on to say, contrary to these rumors and trolls, that the game is not having development problems and development is still moving forward. And that the game will include everything that was promised in the trailer. He says the game is still working on motion capture, character design, and ironing out some combat details. Before he was brought on, he did say he was able to play the demo that they showed off before, so it is in a playable state at least. And an interesting note that he mentioned is that only melee weapons were available in this demo. So ranged weapons, we assume, were taking more time to make right and actually work in this game. And he closes by saying that most AAA games with a big budget always end up taking more time than they initially thought. And that's a high possibility with this game, that the development could take longer than they initially thought, which is why there is such big gaps between some of these different things they're working on and between trailers and gameplay. But right after that, 1 month later, in September of 2019, the cinematic teaser was posted for the game, which showed off the main character we will be playing as. It's more of a story cinematic. It's really interesting. Not too much there, though. If you guys want to, as always, link down below. And then the rest of 2019 was silent. And the last piece of information we got was in February of 2020. A gameplay teaser was posted which showed off new areas. The player is now able to traverse in the polymer liquid that is around the maps. We see boxes, we see more melee weapons, more ranged weapons, and it looks more of a coherent game at this point, like it's actually meant to be played, and they've been working out some of those details, and it doesn't seem as scripted as some of the earlier gameplay. Now, this is kind of when we get into some of the rumors and different ideas that people have about the game so far. The game was supposed to release a beta in Q4 of 2019, which obviously didn't happen. We just assumed development went on longer than that. But in this same time, early in 2020, a YouTube channel for Game said that they actually reached out to Mundfish if they could come, see the game, talk about it. Mundfish accepted, didn't have them sign an NDA or get any other information, and he said he was able to play the first 4 hours of the game and see really all of it, and kind of gave his initial thoughts in a 40-minute video. Now, it is not in English, but they have the captions on there so you can read it, and I just kind of went through and picked out some of the information I thought was important. Now, he does say that there are no loading screens, but frames can drop very low because of that when you are transitioning or reach a certain point where you're transitioning from one area to the next, frames can drop to 1 or 2 frames per second until it really loads and then you're back in it. He did say that the game does crash a lot because of the stage it is at currently, but that's just an early stage of development thing and they're still working out some of the details. He says the game itself does look very similar to the trailers they've showed off already, and it isn't too much of a change between trailer and gameplay itself. In terms of gameplay, he says it's not really a shooter, but more of an immersive sim with these other mechanics on the side, an immersive sim with shooter elements and RPG elements rather than being a shooter right in the forefront. In terms of gameplay, he says bullets will be in short supply in this game, and that gameplay will force you to use a combination of firearms and melee weapons. Ammo can also be crafted, and weapons can be upgraded to include burning or freezing effects. He did go on to say that he was told about story elements they are considering, where they want the game to go, some big twists in the game and things like that. I don't want to go over any of that because that's kind of crazy that they would tell him all of this. He's putting his credibility on the line and there's no reason to not believe that he didn't do this, and Mundfish I think has agreed that yes, they did show him the game and he was able to play. So if you want to hear those full thoughts, his video will be down below as well. And the reason I bring that up, there was a leak from a source who claims to have talked with some of the developers on Atomic Heart to find out what's really happening with the game. Now, this was all anonymous, of course. They couldn't say which members of Atomic Heart did want to talk to them, but the leak basically goes on and just says all the problems the game is having behind the scenes. They say the most recent gameplay was not a montage, but directed gameplay. That the game is very good at animation, graphics, and effects, but in terms of actual gameplay, they're stuck. They keep adding features and can truly never nail down the mechanics they want. It was stated that the leadership first wanted a Doom-style game, then a Dark Souls-style game, and now they're kind of going for Prey. The report also states that the team is missing key developers like game designers, narrative designers, sound design, motion design, and screenwriters. It says that the game itself is very linear and not as large as earlier reports have claimed, and that there's no narrative or plot development yet. They also say they're having problems hiring quality programmers, and as of 2019, the game was only 20% done. They say the initial trailer that kind of put this in mainstream attention and got everyone hyped for the game was originally made for EA to get them to buy into this idea, but EA came to their office and did not want to make the deal after they saw how the studio was ran. They say the most recent gameplay is on the game engine, but sounds are superimposed on top of the video during the editing phase because, as I said before, they don't have a sound designer. They say the enemies really will not attack or do anything other than walk currently, unless it's directed, because that's just not in the game yet. They just walk routes. They said the HUD was superimposed over the game as well, and that game development was basically working to just get this trailer made and work around so this trailer looked good. And they close out kind of saying that 5 months ago the game started over from scratch. Now, so you can see these two varying reports from 4Game, who kind of said he played it, there are some issues, but it's in a playable state, and then this leak, which basically counteracts all of that. I tend to believe 4Game more than just an anonymous leak that has kind of spread around. 4Game is an actual news article. They're putting their own word and face on the line. In the video itself, he talks about the game for 40 minutes, about all the different factors, things like that, how he played it. But as I said, he's showing his face, he's putting his own credibility on the line. With this anonymous leak, you could just write anything and take it as fact. So I kind of go back and forth, but I tend to believe kind of 4Game and what they've said about the game so far. In terms of the second leak though, about the development problems, Mundfish gave their official response, which said, quote, "The author of the channel is anonymous and pursues the goal of recruiting subscribers to his groups. While he does not work according to the rules of professional journalism, where it is necessary to double check the incoming information and contact all parties before publishing anything. But according to the rules of as hard a click as possible, we have not received communications through any official channel from him either. All of the above is speculation and juggling rumors against the backdrop of the growing popularity of Atomic Heart. The legitimacy of this investigation will be studied by Mundfish lawyers, and appropriate measures will be taken based on the analysis of the text, its contents, and sources." So at this point, as I said, it just comes down to who you believe. 4Game said he was able to play the game, and while not in the best spot, was playable and more than working, while this leak basically claims the game is not even in a playable state. Currently, the game is already up for pre-order with 3 different versions. The digital edition for the PS4 and PC. We know it's coming to Xbox One, but you can't pre-order it, I don't believe yet. The standard edition gives you the full game, early access, and digital goods, which is set at $60. The next is the Deluxe Founder Edition, which gives you everything before, plus an in-game profile founder badge, and access to the private Discord, which is also currently set at $60, but both of these are on sale. And finally, there's the Atomic Founder Edition, which includes everything previously, but also a personal in-game ID with access to a unique location and a photo and name placed in the wall of a safe zone. Now, so what can we expect next from this game? We are supposed to get a beta in Q4 of 2019, which is obviously not happening. Mundfish did come out and say that while they're still developing, the global pandemic has slowed everything down and that we will see delays because of that. There also was news on Reddit from someone who had purchased the Atomic Founder Edition, so they are in the Discord, and they say some of the information from the Discord said that Mundfish has said they're expecting still an announcement in spring of 2020. That doesn't mean a release in 2020, but just more information and potentially a release date. Probably early 2021 because of some of these delays. So spring 2020 could really be right around the corner, and I think it just depends on when things start to calm down, people can go back to work, and they can reassess the game and see where they're at. And I think if they do make an announcement like that, that will put the nail in the coffin for whether this leak was true or not, because if 5 months ago the game started over from scratch, there's no way they could have a release this soon, or even want to give an announcement. Overall, I'm very excited about this game. I still think it looks really good, and all the rumors, I just want to wait and see. I'm not going to pre-order, but I do want to see kind of how they move forward and what's next for this game. As always, make sure to like and share this video, subscribe for weekly gaming news, and I will see you guys in the next one.